She gave up food for 5 years to buy books. Then the millionaire CEO discovered her amazing story. Clara stood behind the counter at the diner, her hands trembling slightly as she poured coffee into chipped mugs. Each splash was a reminder of the sacrifices she made every day. The smell of bacon and pancakes filled the air, seducing her from time to time. She would steal a glance at the plate of sizzling hash browns as a customer dug in. Her stomach would growl, but she shook it off. After all, she had a mission. Her eyes sparkled with the dream of creating a little library at home for Emily and the other kids in town, inspired by the old library card she found tucked in her wallet. That day, as she washed dishes in the back, she thought about how she could change their lives. The laughter of her 10-year-old daughter, Emily, rang in her ears like a symphony. "Mom, can we read more books tonight?" Emily would ask, her big blue eyes shining. It warmed Clara's heart. With every dollar she saved, she envisioned shelves filled with stories, knowledge, and adventure. She vowed to give up food, telling herself that it was a small price to pay for the wealth of imagination and growth she could instill in her daughter. No matter how hard it was, she kept her spirits up. "Just think, Clara," she'd whisper to herself, "you're paving the way for Emily. A better future starts with this." Her stomach, aching with hunger, became a temporary inconvenience. Instead, she found joy at garage sales, scouring for forgotten treasures that could ignite imagination in little hearts. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Months turned into years, and Clara gathered the neighborhood kids on her cramped living room floor, surrounded by piles of battered books. "Let us read about adventures," she encouraged, her voice vibrant with enthusiasm, despite the whispers from neighbors calling her a failure. Yet, each time the kids laughed and read aloud, it felt like a triumph against all that negativity. She grasped the idea that literacy could unlock a world beyond their just poor existence. Then, life took a sudden turn. An unexpected notice from her landlord shattered her fragile dreams and eviction. Whispers of judgment crashed over her like storm waves. Despair seeped in, and she felt the weight not just of her struggles, but of the dreams she'd woven for her daughter and the community. But Clara wasn't ready to crumble. She clenched her fists, biting back tears. Her resolve set like concrete. Would this setback extinguish her light? Or would she rise to the occasion, fueled not just by hope but by the knowledge of her community's children relying on her? As she faced the tempest of uncertainty, a flicker of hope ignited within her once more. Would she find a way not just to continue her fight, but to create a brighter future for all? As she took a deep breath, the question lingered in the air. Could she overcome the odds and inspire the very people who doubted her? Clara's heart raced as she stared at the eviction notice crumpled in her palm. The words swirled together, taunting her with all the uncertainty they represented. What would happen to Emily? What would happen to the kids who relied on her small library? She blinked back tears, willing herself to focus on the now. With a deep breath, she pushed her thoughts aside. There was no time to wallow. The morning crowd was just beginning to filter in, and she had to keep her head clear. She donned her smile, the one that felt more like armor than warmth, and greeted the first customers of the day, a couple of regulars who had become like family. "Morning, Clara," they chimed, settling into their usual booth. "Good morning. Same as always?" she asked, pouring their coffee with a practiced hand. "Sure thing. How is Emily?" Their genuine concern tugged at her heart. Clara shrugged lightly, masking the turmoil inside. "She's great. Always reading," she replied, images of Emily curled up with a book filling her mind. As the couple chatted about their day, she focused on the smell of fresh coffee, the sound of laughter, and the glimpses of a life she was determined to protect. Yet as the hours dripped by, shadows of doubt crept into her thoughts. The eviction loomed an unwanted specter that flickered in and out of clarity. What if she lost their home? The cozy nights on the couch, the laughter ringing through the walls, and the safe haven she had built could all fade away. She pressed her palm to her heart, grounding herself. That night, after Emily had drifted off to sleep deep in the pages of another book, Clara sat at the kitchen table, calculating how she could make ends meet. She spread out the pitiful stack of bills, each one like a punch to the gut. But among them, in the flickering candlelight, she found resilience. She grabbed a blank sheet of paper and began writing. "Dear friends," she started. She poured her heart out, explaining their plight, and how her dream was not just a personal ambition, but something larger. She envisioned a community united by stories, stripped of judgment and nourished by hope and imagination. The words flowed freely as she reached out to the neighborhood, asking for help that would ensure Emily and all those children kept their smaller worlds alive. As she sealed the envelopes, a wild flutter of uncertainty invaded her stomach. Would they care enough to help? Were they too caught up in their own lives to notice hers? The very next day, Clara ventured to the post office and dropped the letters in the box, her hands shaking. As she walked back, the weight of her fear began to lift, replaced by a trembling hope. What if some of her neighbors rallied together? What if they too wanted to see more books in the community? Days turned into a week. Clara worried. But she also envisioned futures painted in vibrant colors. Emily running a community reading program, a safe place for kids to explore and learn, and families coming together, transformed by stories. Then one fateful evening, a knock on the door echoed through the silence of their little home. The shadows danced in anticipation as Clara opened the door. Standing there was Mrs. Johnson, the neighbor with a warm smile and kind eyes, clutching a box. "Clara, we received your letter." Clara's heart raced as she stepped aside, ushering Mrs. Johnson in. What could it mean? Had the community found her plea worthy? As the door clicked shut behind them, Clara's breath caught in her throat. Was this the moment she had been waiting for, the first step on a road she desperately needed to travel? She felt a rush of emotion, fear mingled with fierce hope. The journey wasn't over, but was this light at the end of a dark tunnel? And as Clara whispered a silent prayer for whatever was to come, she could not shake the question that lingered. Would her community truly stand by her, or would her dreams shatter alongside the weight of her struggles? Mrs. Johnson stepped inside, her gentle demeanor radiating warmth that momentarily pushed away Clara's anxiety. The box in her arms felt heavy, not just with supplies, but with the weight of a community's hope. "Clara, I'm not here alone. We all got your letter," she said, eyes twinkling with a spark of determination. Clara's heart soared as she set her eyes on the box. Could it contain materials for the library? Donations of books? The possibilities spun in her mind like a whirlwind. "What's in there?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mrs. Johnson opened the box to reveal an assortment of children's books, old and new, along with several envelopes peeking out from underneath the papers. "It's a donation from myself and some other neighbors. We came together to support you and Emily. We believe in what you're doing here." Clara's breath caught. "But why?" "I didn't expect anyone to." "Clara, you might not see it, but you've built something beautiful, a space where our kids can learn and grow." "We just want to help," Mrs. Johnson interrupted, her voice firm. Tears pricked at Clara's eyes again, but this time, they were laced with gratitude. I don't know what to say," she managed. "Just say thank you. And we're looking to do more. Some of us are putting together a fundraiser. We want to raise enough to cover your rent and keep the library going," Mrs. Johnson explained, a gleam of excitement dancing in her features. Clara felt her heart flutter in disbelief. They were thinking bigger than she had dared to dream. "A fundraiser? You mean, actually?" "Absolutely. We can hold it at the community center. We'll organize everything, food, games, and, of course, a book drive." Clara smiled, a real smile that stretched across her face. I would love that. Thank you so much." With that, She wrapped her arms around Mrs. Johnson in a tight embrace, feeling the warmth and strength of her neighbor envelop her like a protective shield. As they pulled apart, Clara's sense of urgency kicked in. She couldn't just wait for the fundraiser. She needed to start planning right away. Emily, and I can help with the setup. We can organize the books, arrange the seating, slow down. Mrs. Johnson chuckled lightly. We have time. Let us get the word out first and see how many people want to get involved. We'll be needing all hands on deck. Clara felt a bubbling sense of purpose. She could envision the people of her community gathering, families smiling, kids rummaging through books, laughing over hot cocoa. Maybe even local authors could come to read their favorite stories. But a nagging thread of worry still lingered at the edges of her mind. The eviction notice was still there, like a ghost haunting her thoughts. Would the fundraiser be enough? What if they didn't raise the funds needed? As if sensing her thoughts, Mrs. Johnson reached out, squeezing her hand. Hey, one step at a time. We will get through this together. You have us. And we aren't letting you go. Clara nodded, the warmth of community seeping into the cracks of her heart. But even as hope began to bloom, a different worry settled in. What if there are people who want to help? What if it doesn't go as we hope? You can't think like that right now. We have to focus on the good, Mrs. Johnson replied softly but firmly. Clara took a breath, clinging to her neighbor's words. You're right. I'll focus on the good, the community, the stories we're sharing. With renewed resolve, they began discussing plans for the fundraiser. Clara suddenly envisioned the library filled with laughter, children's bright faces illuminated by imagination, and the unbreakable bonds of community coming together. But just as Clara felt buoyed by this newfound hope, a troubling thought emerged. What if someone on the other side of her dreams tried to shut it all down? What were the ramifications of her eviction notice? As they brainstormed, and with each idea shared, Clara could feel the stirrings of something greater rising within her, an unknown strength. But the deeper question remained, could the support of her community be enough to battle the fears that clung to her? As this thought lingered in the air, Clara knew they were embarking on a journey that would test everything she believed. Would the community rally around her in time, or would the tides of fate draw her back into uncertainty? Clara stood in the middle of her little library, feeling like it had transformed into a fortress of hope. Mrs. Johnson's words echoed openly in her mind, and she was overwhelmed with gratitude. The children's laughter, the stories yet to be told, and the faces of neighbors she cherished filled her heart with warmth while anxiety nibbled at the edges. How long could she keep this place alive? Okay, let us do this, Clara said, determination igniting in her chest. As they began writing down ideas on a list, each word felt like a step toward reclaiming her dream. They discussed everything from types of food to serve to fun games that could engage kids. Clara's spirit soared as Mrs. Johnson shared her vision for a reading corner where local authors could come and tell their stories. As they brainstormed, Clara heard the faint sound of children playing outside. The joyous shrieks reminded her that this wasn't just about books. It was about building a haven for those kids, where dreams could take root and flourish. She chuckled as she envisioned Emily dressed as a fairy, guiding the kids through a magical storytelling session. But right behind that delightful image lurked her eviction notice, the threat looming like a shadow. What if she couldn't raise enough? She couldn't let that uncertainty creep in. What if we set a goal that feels just a little out of reach? She suggested. It could motivate everyone. We can put a big sign up in the library counting down to our goal. Mrs. Johnson nodded eagerly. That's great. It brings a sense of challenge to it. And we can update it live, mark our progress visually so everyone can see how close we get. Clara beamed. As they plotted more ideas, the conversation flowed easily, and laughter filled the air. It felt good to be united with purpose. She had been so consumed with dread that she had forgotten the magic of teamwork. Let us ask around the neighborhood for donations too, Mrs. Johnson proposed, her eyes sparkling. We can have a bake sale. Maybe a favorite recipe from each of our neighbors? Yes, and we can host story times in the park leading up to the big day. Clara exclaimed, her voice rising with excitement. Each idea spun new dreams, brightening the paths ahead, but then Mrs. Johnson hesitated, her brow creasing slightly. "Clara, be honest with me, are you really okay? You seem a bit stressed." The question hung in the air. Clara opened her mouth to assure her, but instead, she hesitated, feeling the weight of her fears again. "I'm trying. I want this to work. I just don't want to let anyone down. I feel so responsible." Mrs. Johnson took a step closer, placing a comforting hand on Clara's shoulder. "You're not alone. You're doing something incredible for this community. Just keep believing that, and the rest will follow." Clara felt the warmth of that connection wrap around her. Maybe she could face what lay ahead, even if it seemed daunting. "Okay," she said, the worry loosening its grip just a little. "I'll hold on to that thought." The conversation shifted back to logistics, and as the afternoon light poured through the windows, Clara felt a warmth spreading. Hope flickered and danced like sunlight on the pages of a well-loved book. It was contagious. Then, just as they began to sketch out a plan for the bake sale, a loud knock shattered the serenity of their newfound calm. Clara's heart raced. Who could that be? Mrs. Johnson exchanged a glance with Clara, and they both moved toward the door. Clara hesitated. What if it was something bad? What if her fears were about to come true? "When you open that door," Mrs. Johnson whispered, "remember, you're not just Clara the librarian anymore. You're a pillar of this community." Taking a deep breath, Clara grasped the door handle, her pulse quickening. Her heart beat heavy with anticipation. Could this visitor offer more than a mere moment of disruption? As she swung the door open, Clara was met by a figure she hadn't expected. It was Mr. Thompson, the wealthy figure from town who had, until now, seemed like a distant reality. Clara felt a rush of uncertainty. Had he come to protest her library? Or was there something more? Before she could speak, he looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Clara," he began, "I need to talk to you about your library." Her breath hitched. What did he want? Would this be good news or the end? The question echoed in her mind. Would this be a turning point, or just one more obstacle standing in her way? Clara's heart raced as Mr. Thompson's words hung in the air. She searched his expression for clues, but his face was a mask of neutrality. Panic clawed at her throat, and she felt the weight of every moment leading up to this. What did he know? Had someone shared whispers of her troubles, the impending eviction, or the fear that gnawed at her every day? "Mr. Thompson," she finally managed, her voice shaking slightly, "what brings you here?" He stepped forward, not quite crossing the threshold, but enough to fill the doorway. "I've heard about the library and the plans you have for it. It's inspiring." Clara's stomach nodded. Inspiration wasn't a currency she could trade in. "Thank you," she offered, trying to mask her anxiety. "But we're still struggling. I'm not sure we can raise the money we need." His eyes softened, and for a brief second, Clara thought she saw understanding there. "I know it's a challenging time," he said, lowering his voice, "but maybe I can help." Hope flickered, igniting a spark of possibility within her. "How?" she asked, clutching the door handle tighter. "I mean, do you have any ideas?" Mr. Thompson took a deep breath, shifting slightly as if he were deciding how much to reveal. "I've been thinking about community initiatives to support local projects. I believe in the impact libraries can have, especially when they uplift young minds. Your vision for a reading corner struck a chord with me." Clara leaned in closer, disbelief mixing with cautious optimism. "So you're interested in getting involved?" "More than that. I've been considering major support for libraries like yours, but I need to see firsthand how dedicated you are. I'd like a proposal from you, outlining your plans for the library and how you envision engaging the community." Her eyes widened in realization. "You mean a proposal for funding?" "Yes," he affirmed. "If I like what I see, it could lead to a considerable donation." 1,000 thoughts raced through Clara's mind. She felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting rapidly, opening up new paths before her. I can prepare something that captures our vision. I promise to outline everything we want to inspire joy in reading." "You're enthusiastic, Clara." "I admire that," he said, nodding slowly. But then, a shadow passed over his face. "However, I must warn you, this isn't just about funding. I want to ensure the community actively participates. It's not merely about raising money, it's about creating connections. Clara nodded, digesting his words. This was more than she had ever hoped for, but there was immense pressure now to deliver on this unanticipated opportunity. We can do this. For the kids, the neighborhood, for everyone who believes in this library. Good. His lips curled slightly, revealing a hint of a smile. I look forward to seeing your proposal, Clara. You have 1 month. As he turned to leave, a thought struck her. But wait. What if we put together a community event to showcase our ideas? A chance for everyone to get involved? He paused, considering it. Now that's an interesting notion. If you can rally the community around it, it could make your case even stronger. Clara felt invigorated. Her mind raced with possibilities: the bake sale, storytelling sessions in the park, a grand showcase of local talents to draw attention. If they could rally everyone together, maybe Mr. Thompson would see just how much the library meant to their lives. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, Clara called as he stepped back onto the porch. I won't let you down. As he left, she turned back toward Mrs. Johnson, who had been silent during the conversation, her face a mix of surprise and encouragement. Did you hear that? We might actually get the support we need. Mrs. Johnson clasped Clara's hands in hers, her smile bright. This could change everything. But remember, it's going to take hard work. Are you ready for that? Clara squared her shoulders, fire igniting in her belly. Absolutely. We have to show everyone that this library is worth saving. But just as she envisioned the library bustling with laughter and stories, a voice whispered caution deep down, reminding her that with hope often came the risk of disappointment. Would they be able to pull it all together? As the sun dipped low in the sky, painting everything in hues of orange and gold, Clara sighed. One spark ignited so much potential. Now, she just needed to keep that fire burning. Let us plan this event, Clara said resolutely. Together, we'll turn our dream into a reality. But in the back of her mind, the nagging thought lingered. What if they couldn't rally the support they needed? What if Mr. Thompson's interest didn't lead to the salvation she hoped for? As doubt threatened to cloud her determination, Clara reminded herself of Mrs. Johnson's words, a pillar of the community. Could she really become one? Clara closed her eyes, envisioning the faces of children who loved books. Tomorrow, she would dive headfirst into planning. But as she turned off the lights in the library, she couldn't shake off that chilling question. Would the community rise to her call? Or was it all just a fragile dream, waiting to shatter? The morning light filtered through the library's dusty windows, illuminating Clara's hopeful determination. She moved quickly, shaking off the remnants of her doubts. Today marked the beginning of her quest to rally the community. She could almost hear the laughter and cheers already. As she set down a stack of papers on the worn wooden table, her heart thundered with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Okay, Clara, she whispered under her breath. Let us make this happen. The first task was clear. What would the event look like? A big poster hung on the wall, its empty surface waiting for her to brainstorm ideas. Clara grabbed a bright marker and wrote Library Community Showcase at the top. The moments spent writing felt liberating, each stroke bolstering her belief that this could indeed work. Almost instinctively, she started jotting down everything that fluttered into her mind. Storytelling sessions led by local authors, an open mic for children to share their own tales, and perhaps a bake sale with goodies donated by neighborhood bakers. Clara grinned, picturing families gathering, children with sticky fingers as they dove into exciting books. She lost track of time, only stopping when Mrs. Johnson peeked through the door. Looks like someone's onto something, she said, her eyes twinkling. Yes, Clara replied enthusiastically, showing the list. I want to involve everyone and make them feel the library is a place for all of us. Mrs. Johnson nodded approvingly. That's the spirit. But we should get the word out as soon as possible. The more people know about this, the better. Right? Clara replied, her heart swelling with newfound urgency. Let us start spreading the word. We can make flyers, post on the community board, maybe even use social media. Excited chatter filled the room as they began planning how to distribute information. They brainstormed ways to capture attention, from colorful flyers to engaging posts on local pages. Clara felt the energy buzzing in her fingertips. Before long, the small library transformed into a hive of activity. Other volunteers began to trickle in, drawn by hope and Clara's enthusiasm. Some offered to bake goods, while others brought art supplies for decorations. A group of teenagers even volunteered to help spread the word among their friends. As the day unfolded, laughter echoed off the shelves and Clara's heart swelled. This is it, she thought, overwhelmed by a wave of gratitude. She was no longer alone in this. The community gathered around her, ready to push through the barriers that once seemed insurmountable. But just as Clara was about to ride high on this wave of hope, she reminded herself of the stakes. Would people show up? What if it all fell flat? Those dark thoughts tickled the edges of her mind, but this time she pushed them away, focusing instead on the camaraderie blooming before her. As the sun dipped behind the library, Clara took a step back to admire the fruit of their labor. Tables filled with colorful flyers, a stack of art supplies, and treats ready to be tasted. All it needed now was the magic of connection, the very thing she and Mr. Thompson spoke of. Well, Clara, I think we've done a great job today. Mrs. Johnson beamed. Yes, Clara echoed, her smile wide. We're ready to show the community how special this place is. I can't wait to see their faces. But, Mrs. Johnson coaxed, sensing the hesitation. What if no one comes? What if all this effort is in vain? Clara whispered, her voice almost breaking. Mrs. Johnson crossed her arms with a mix of warmth and resolve. You can't control the outcome, Clara. But you can light the way, give them a reason to care. And tonight, you just might discover the strength of your community. Clara nodded, taking in Mrs. Johnson's words. She needed to let go of control and embrace the uncertainty. Maybe the spark they created today could ignite something they never expected. Just as she felt emboldened, a voice cut through the air. Are you ready for the next step? It was Mr. Thompson, his silhouette framed by the library door. Mr. Thompson. Clara gasped, adrenaline washing over her. You came. What did you think of our plans? But before he could answer, Clara felt something shift within her, a mix of excitement and dread swirling in her chest. Could he be the final piece they needed? Or would he bring a wave of reality crashing down on her dreams? Clara's heart pounded as she tried to grasp the weight of Mr. Thompson's presence. His reputation loomed large in their small town, a man whose business acumen had transformed lives. But now, standing in the library, she felt a mix of hope and anxiety. Mr. Thompson stepped closer, his hands tucked in his pockets. I've been hearing whispers about your idea, Clara. It sounds promising. A smile creased his rugged face, but Clara searched for the catch behind his words. What do you think? She asked, holding her breath. I think it's a fantastic initiative, he replied, leaning against the doorframe. But let us discuss the hurdles. Gathering a crowd is one thing, but sustaining interest, that's where the real challenge lies. His words stirred a nervous flutter in her stomach. This was exactly what she feared, the thought that her plans would somehow fall short. But the community needs this. It's about more than just books. It's about connection, she insisted, her voice gaining strength. Mr. Thompson nodded, his brown eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Connections are crucial. How do you envision keeping that momentum going after the event? Clara paused, searching for a response. They had been so focused on planning the showcase that she hadn't thought about what came next. Well, I guess we could have regular story hours or book clubs. Maybe even a community newsletter? Great ideas, he encouraged. But you'll need a dedicated group to take the lead afterward. You can't manage it alone. A flicker of uncertainty crept back in. Could she shape a lasting impact? She cleared her throat. I don't mind rallying more volunteers. There are so many people involved already. True, but will they stay engaged? What happens when the excitement begins to fade? His direct gaze held her, a mixture of challenge and support. Clara felt inspired. Maybe I could create a community committee. People from different backgrounds could work together. Now you're thinking. He smiled, his tone softening. But remember, fostering engagement is about story. Everyone has one. Help them realize they belong and can contribute. As the idea rooted in her mind, hope ignited once more. Individual stories could be the spark to unite them. I can share my story too. I surrendered a lot to pursue this dream. Maybe that will resonate. Mr. Thompson's expression shifted, something glimmering in his eyes. Yes, personal stories can create bridges between strangers. Yours especially could inspire others. With newfound determination, Clara felt the weight on her shoulders lighten. It was about opening doors, and now she had a blueprint. I'll make sure every story matters. No one else left out. Mr. Thompson nodded firmly, a hint of approval dancing on his lips. Exactly. Remember, you're not just selling books, you're weaving a community fabric. Clara stood taller. We can fix this library together. And I'll find a way to keep everyone connected, but as soon as the words left her mouth, doubt stirred dangerously close again. What if I can't? What if it's not enough? The fear crept in like shadows in the dusk. Growth isn't without struggle, he said gently. What truly matters is your willingness to step outside your comfort zone. His words resonated deeply within her. She was willing. But still, the fear remained like a tiny weight pressing down her heart. Clara needed a way to translate this ambition into action. Let us take that leap together, she declared, surprising even herself. The thought of action united Clara with Mr. Thompson, igniting a sense of partnership. Maybe they could indeed create something beautiful. As they made plans to further define their vision, a louder voice called from down the hall. It was Mrs. Johnson, her cheerful energy resonating in every word. Clara, we have some exciting news. Clara's pulse quickened. The excitement in Mrs. Johnson's voice was contagious. She and Mr. Thompson turned to face the door, curiosity igniting in Clara's chest. What was the news? Could this be another twist in their journey? Something that would shift everything they had been dreaming of? Clara held her breath, bracing for the unexpected. Mrs. Johnson burst into the library, her smile wide enough to light up the dim corners of the room. Clara's heart raced as she hung on to her every word. Clara, Mrs. Johnson exclaimed, nearly bouncing on her feet. You won't believe what just happened. The school board approved funding for a community reading initiative. Clara felt the weight of disbelief wash over her, then joy surged like a wave. Are you serious? She asked, hardly able to contain her excitement. Yes, they loved your idea about the showcase and want to partner with us. There's going to be money for new books, programs, everything. Mrs. Johnson's jubilant energy poured out, wrapping Clara in hope. That's incredible. Mr. Thompson chimed in, his smile mirroring Clara's disbelief. This changes everything, Clara. You've got to get ready. We can start planning right away. Clara's mind raced as she absorbed every word. Funding meant resources, potential, and a chance to breathe life into her vision. But what about the community committee? We'll need to rally more volunteers to make sure this doesn't fizzle out, she said, the fear creeping back that had haunted her earlier. We can approach the local businesses, Mr. Thompson suggested. They do want to be part of something like this. It's great exposure for them and a chance to give back. Nodding, Clara scribbled notes furiously, the hopes spilling out into tangible plans. She envisioned posters, meetings, ways to invite the community in to lend a hand. She dared to dream bigger. Everything was possible now, but beneath the excitement lay a flicker of doubt. And what if, after all the initial excitement, people don't stay committed? What if this just turns into another failed project? She had seen it so many times before, vibrant initiatives dimming over time. Mr. Thompson tilted his head slightly, his expression serious yet understanding. Clara, you're building a community on shared stories. It's not just about the books, but the connections. Get the right people excited about it. If they see their stories mattering, they'll be on board for the long haul. Trust in that. Her heart raced anew as she pondered Mr. Thompson's words. Then we'll create something lasting. Something really special. Before she could spiral into thoughts of what-ifs, Mrs. Johnson interjected eagerly. Let's start planning a launch event right away. We can set up a meeting for next week. How does that sound? Perfect, Clara said, finding her voice infused with new energy. We can begin to set up small brainstorming sessions with volunteers to feed ideas. The more voices we have, the stronger our community will be. The three of them busily collaborated, ideas flowing like water. As Clara looked at the enthusiasm in their eyes, she felt her fears dissipate. She was not just dreaming, but putting those dreams into action. Can you imagine how many people we can reach? Clara said, her excitement growing. She thought of the joyful faces, the warmth of connection, the books that could transform lives. We'll create something that lasts. A real change. Just then, a knock on the door interrupted their fervor. Clara turned to see Tom, her longtime friend, peeking in. Anxiety prickled as she noticed he rarely visited the library now. "Am I interrupting?" he asked, his tone cautious. "Not at all. Join us," Clara urged, waving him in. But deep down, she sensed an uneasiness in his expression, a tension she couldn't shake off. As Tom stepped into the room, she felt an unsettling shift in the atmosphere. What did he know? What was coming next? "Actually, I have something important to discuss." His voice faded, and Clara's heart raced again. What news could be so significant? Would it mean a detour from the path she was finally forming, or was it a piece of the puzzle that would lead to something greater? Clara took a deep breath, ready for whatever came next, her heart pounding in anticipation. Clara held her breath, the air suddenly heavy with uncertainty. Tom's gaze flicked between her and Mrs. Johnson, clearly weighing his words. "I didn't want to drop this on you, but you know my uncle has a bookstore downtown, right?" "Yes," she answered slowly, uncertain where this was heading. "Well, he has been in trouble," Tom continued, his voice lowering. "They've had a lot of financial issues after that big chain store opened nearby. He has been thinking of closing the shop for good." Clara felt a sharp stab in her chest. Tom's uncle's bookstore was a community landmark, a haven for countless stories and memories. "But what does this have to do with our plans?" she asked, her thoughts racing. Tom hesitated. "I thought he could use a partnership. If this community initiative takes off, maybe we could help him stay afloat. The problem is, he's worried no one is going to care enough to shop there anymore." Mrs. Johnson's eyes widened. "What a brilliant idea, Tom. If we include him in the initiative right from the beginning, we could draw people away from the chain and support local businesses. We can even feature his store in our launch event." Clara felt a flicker of hope. Breaching the gap between her community project and Tom's uncle's struggles could be a lifeline. She started to write notes on her notepad, the excitement bubbling back up. "We could set up workshops at his store, host story readings with local authors. It would spotlight everything that makes our community special." Tom nodded slowly. "But that's just it. Would people really participate? After everything that has happened?" The weight of his doubt sunk in. Clara's mind churned with possibilities, then stumbled over the ghosts of past failures. What if they fell short? What if they failed to rally the community around her dreams? Mrs. Johnson placed a hand on Clara's shoulder, her touch grounding. "Clara, remember what you said about connections? If we can get them to share their stories, people will want to be a part of it. They'll rediscover the joy of reading together." Clara could feel the warmth of determination spreading through her, mingling with the fear. "Then let us get everyone on board. Let us set up a meeting with Tom's uncle and brainstorm ideas together." Tom exchanged glances with Clara, his initial hesitance starting to melt. "I think he'd really like that. It might just give him the motivation he needs." "Perfect," Clara exclaimed, her pulse quickening with renewed purpose. They would merge their efforts, create a stronghold for local stories, and stand against the looming threat of disconnection. The sense of partnership brought a rush. It was more than a mere project. It was a movement. As they dove back into planning, Clara felt the weight lifting. They were forging a path together, not just for herself, but for the entire community. The laughter, the nods, the enthusiastic conversations filled the library. It was alive, just like her vision, but as the sun began to set outside, casting long shadows through the windows, a thought nagged at her. What if all this effort led to a crowdsourced disaster? What if the community turned their backs when she needed them the most? Questions swirled in Clara's mind as they continued to plan, but she pushed them aside. Let us prepare to present this idea to the community committee, she said firmly. They need to see what this can mean for everyone. Just as the meeting began to gain its momentum, a sudden ding from her phone cut through the chatter. A message appeared, and Clara's heart dropped as she noticed the sender. It was her mother, asking to talk. What could she possibly want to discuss now? Was it about her plans, or something deeper? Clara's stomach twisted with anxiety. She looked at Tom, a glimmer of concern in his eyes reflecting her own worry. "Everything okay?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Clara's heart raced as she replied, "I don't know yet what had her mother learned. Why did she feel the urge to reach out just now?" Clara took a shaky breath, feeling tension coil around her heart. Whatever it was, it could change everything. Clara sat in her living room, surrounded by the warmth of flickering candles and the comforting ambience of her little library. It felt like a sanctuary, yet shadows lurked in the corners of her mind. The message from her mother loomed large, an unanswered question floating in the air. What could spark her mother's desire to reach out? Was it about her dreams? Or something more personal? As she stared at the phone, memories of conversations with her mother played like a reel in her mind, moments filled with doubt, desperation, but also glimpses of love. A sigh escaped her lips as she realized that no matter what happened, she had built a community here. A community that believed in her. Taking a deep breath, she opened the message and began typing. "Hi, Mom. What's on your mind?" As her fingers flew over the screen, she felt a sense of dread building. Would her mother understand the fire burning in her heart? Or would she only see the struggle? Just then, a knock broke the silence. It thrust Clara back to the present. Glancing at Tom and Mrs. Johnson, who were poring over their notes, she motioned them to hold on. Clara opened the door to find Mr. Thompson standing there, sporting a warm smile. "Clara, I wanted to check in and see how the plans were coming along." "Mrs. Johnson thought I could lend a hand with the community meeting," he said, stepping inside. His presence brought a surge of reassurance, but that nagging doubt still whispered at the back of her mind. "Thanks, Mr. Thompson. We're gathering ideas to make it truly special," Clara responded, grinning as she waved him over to join them. As they began sorting through their thoughts, the excitement surged through the room. Positive energy crackled, and for a moment, Clara forgot about everything else. As ideas blossomed with every passing minute, the burdens lifted from her shoulders. They talked of guest speakers and food trucks, of joy and laughter. "The power of storytelling can unite us all," Tom said passionately. The words felt right, and Clara could almost envision the community coming alive in a whirlwind of voices sharing their dreams. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. Clara picked it up to see her mother had responded. Heart racing, she opened it. "Can we meet? I have something important to tell you." It struck her like a bolt of lightning. Her mind began racing. Was this about their past? Their strained relationship? Could she hold on to her growing dreams with the uncertainty looming ahead? Taking a deep breath, she replied, "All right, when and where?" With her heart racing, Clara returned to the living room, focusing again on the group. They were still bouncing ideas around, all of them bubbling with excitement about how to make their community showcase a true celebration of stories. As Mrs. Johnson shared her vision for involving local schools, Clara's mind wandered. She thought of her mother's words that once stifled her dreams. Would this meeting be the catalyst for their relationship to heal? Could they carve out a new path together? "Hey," Tom nudged her gently, breaking her reverie. "You okay? You seem distracted." Clara offered a tight smile, but beneath it lay the whirlwind of emotions. "I just received a message from my mom. I have to meet her soon." Mr. Thompson leaned in, curiosity gleaming in his eyes. "Is everything all right?" "Yeah, I'll be fine," Clara assured, though doubts trickled back in. Could she truly be both a mother to Emily and a daughter to her own mother? They continued the brainstorming session, but Clara's thoughts kept drifting back to the meeting with her mom. Finally, as darkness settled outside, she resolved to face whatever awaited her. After all, if she could inspire a community to rally together and share their stories, maybe she could mend the frayed threads of her own narrative. The hour approached, and Clara stood at the door of her mother's home, clutching the edge of her coat. It felt like stepping into unknown territory. Would this conversation build bridges or leave gaping chasms in their relationship? With a deep breath, she knocked. The door opened slowly, revealing her mother's face, a mixture of hope and apprehension. Clara, her mother began, but Clara quickly stepped forward. "Let us talk," she said firmly, taking control of the moment. The weight of expectations pressed between them like thick fog, yet Clara felt a flicker of determination in her heart. As they settled into the living room, Clara faced her mother, ready to confront the unspoken truths. "I've been busy with the library project," Clara started, pouring her heart out. "I want to create something special for Emily and our community. It's my dream." "I know," her mother replied quietly, pain etched in her features. "I just worried about you putting so much on the line. You need to focus on the basics, Clara." That single sentence struck Clara deep. The notion clashed with her dreams. But the library gives hope. It's about more than just books. It's a lifeline for so many. Her mother's brow furrowed, glimmers of understanding emerging. I didn't realize just how big your vision was. It's hard to see your daughter grow into someone who wants to fight such monumental battles." As Clara spoke, emotions bubbled to the surface. "It's not just my battle. It's for Emily, for the kids in our neighborhood. I want to show them they can dream too." Tension hung in the air, thick with unspoken fears and aspirations. For a moment, everything felt raw, but Clara pressed on. "Can't you see that?" Her mother's eyes softened, and Clara caught a flicker of recognition. "Yes, Clara. I see it now. I want to support you. But can we talk about the fears I have? Can you promise me you won't let go of yourself in this fight?" A tear slipped down her mother's cheek, a slip of vulnerability Clara had never expected. A wave of warmth washed over Clara. "I promise." As they sat and shared their truths, the strands of their lives intertwined in a new way and understanding began to form. "Let us support each other," Clara suggested, feeling hope blossom unexpectedly. Her mother nodded slowly. "Yes, I want to understand how to help." And suddenly, amidst the vulnerable exchanges, it became clear they were embarking on a new chapter, together. As Clara returned home that night, a sense of triumph filled her heart. She had dared to challenge not only her community, but herself and her family, too. The glow of her little library felt brighter than ever. With renewed energy coursing through her, she knew she could tackle the upcoming community showcase and all that lay ahead. The road might be rough, but she was ready to steer it with a firm hand. As the sun peeked into the window the next morning, Clara set to work. She could envision the joy, the laughter, the magic of connection awaiting them all. There was a shift in her heart. The story was finally unfolding. Now, it's your turn. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Subscribe immediately to this channel to not miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now for more inspiring tales.